Our next presenter is a history professor who explores the social and popular culture of medieval and early modern Spain at UCLA. Dr. Teofilo Ruiz, he prefers to go by Teo, is also a recipient of the National Humanities Medal. He's a Guggenheim Fellow. He's a Carnegie Foundation Professor of the Year and a former Phi Beta Kappa visiting scholar, one of our own. He's also known for his exuberance. We hope he can bring that tonight. And he's constantly rated one of the best professors at UCLA. That's a big compliment. So let's see if he can walk us through the terror of history in 5 minutes or less. Please welcome Dr. Teo Ruiz.
I don't want to be different. It's just that I feel trapped behind that. And in fact, my name is Teofilo, which is a very difficult name. It's a Greek name, but all my friends and all my students call me Teo, which means God, and you're welcome to do the same. I begin every one of my classes with this image. It is a painting by Paul Klee, which he named the Angelus Nose, the new angel. Walter Benjamin, an essayist, a German essayist, philosopher, one of the most incisive minds of the 20th century, who killed himself outside the borders of Spain, fleeing the Nazi horror, wrote something in the thesis on the philosophy of history, in which he argues and he says two things. One, which is an essay on historicism, that all monuments of civilization are at the same time monuments of barbarity. Every time that we see something formidable in terms of art, in terms of creativity, it has been paid by the toil and the sufferings of the many. The other thing is called the terror of history, or the angel of history. And Walter Benjamin tells us that he has seen this painting, and he likes to imagine this to be the angel of history. And the angel of history stands on a promontory on a hill, and he's looking into the past. And in front of him, growing skywards, are all the disasters of mankind. Genocides, Holocaust, wars, disasters, oppression. He wants to put a stop to this, but a wind is blowing from paradise, and he has been caught in his wings and is propelling him inexorably into the future. That pile of debris, Walter Benjamin tells us, is what we call progress. Why do I do this? Because it fits what I want to say. During the Renaissance and the scientific revolution, considered to be one of the high points of Western civilization, the same people who created this art and that science also created elaborate discourses about witchcraft. And between 1486, roughly, and the 1660s, around 100,000 people, mostly elderly women, were tried, convicted of practicing witchcraft, and hung from their necks or were burned. How could this happen? How could the flip side of the Renaissance and the scientific revolution be the extermination of mostly elderly women? Well, first of all, there are many contextual questions and issues. One, the end of the Middle Ages marked the progression from feudal societies to centralized monarchies, with the ability to tax and conscript, and with the ability to concentrate power, what Max Weber called the monopoly of legalized violence. Economies change from local economies to global economies. Society change. It moves from the village society, the communal world of the village, into more complex societies in which peasants were driven out of the land and became essentially beggars or people who were always on the move. The first half of Utopia by Thomas More is all about the displacement of peasants. A new world is discovered, but far more important and far more significant. There was a rupture, a schism between Protestants and Catholics that begins in the 1520s and which will lead Europe to horrific religious wars that will last until 1648, or some people would say lasted until yesterday. It is not a coincidence that in these places where religion was contested, those are the places that were the strongest in terms of essentially witch persecution. If you were a Catholic in a Protestant town, there is a chance that you will be accused of being a witch. If you were a Protestant in a Catholic town, the same will happen. So what happens? A discourse of witches is created from Thomas Aquinas on. In the late 15th century, Christianity for the first time began to penetrate the mountain areas. And preachers, mostly mendicants, Dominicans and Franciscans, came into contact with the fantasies of rural mountain people. And they created an elaborate discourse on witchcraft. Two monks named Henry Kramer and Jacob Sprenger went to the Jura Mountains and met all these villages and wrote a book when they came back called the Malleus Maleficarum, which is the foundations, the intellectual foundations for the witch hunt. And after that, many, many people came in front of inquisitions or Protestant tribunals that were condemned. Now, you want to know, who are these witches? They are rural, they are elderly women, they are mostly people who essentially practice some kind of healing through herbal. They were midwives, they were not the very poor, but at another level of society, and the gong has sound.